Here is the map of Section 1, San Diego to Tecate. The red route is the Baja Divide route, which I followed. I made simple maps by taking screenshots of my Map Out iPhone app and marking them with additional information. Here is the map for Day 1, San Diego bus station to the Metro KOA. Day 1, November 9th, 2018. I arrived at the bus station in San Diego around 2 p.m. I moved my gear across the street to the trolley plaza. After the bus trip, I was happy to have work and hiking to do. I got everything packed and ready to go. I mostly followed the Baja Divide route. I had made a camping reservation at the San Diego Metro KOA. I experienced the flood of workers departing from the shipyards on this Friday afternoon. Then I followed East Harbor Drive south to the Sweetwater River and crossed the river on Broadway. I stopped at Circle K and bought some cold food to eat at camp. I made it to the Metro KOA and occupied my campsite. While setting up my tent in the dark, I stepped on a mound of dog poo. I went to the new restroom facility. It was very nice. I cleaned my hiking shoe and shaved and showered. At my campsite, I ate my humble dinner and got in my tent. I immediately fell into a deep sleep. At 3:14 a.m., I woke up. I was trying to raise my right arm and felt something elastic connected to my arm. I found I had picked up a huge wad of chewing gum on the back of my jacket sleeve. The wad had stuck to my sleeping bag. Now I had a big patch of gum on both my jacket and my sleeping bag. I snapped a photo of the disgusting mess that came from someone's mouth. My guess was I had picked it up when I brushed against a tree or a pole in my campsite. I was sure that finding a place to hide out would have been a much better deal than this campsite. I tried to forget about it. I managed to get back to sleep. Day 2, Saturday, November 10th, 2018. I was following the Baja Divide bike route to Tecate. The route passes close by the Metro KOA. I adjusted my route to pass by the Burger King on Bonita Road beside the 805 freeway. I found the power was out for that section of town. A few blocks further east on Bonita, the Starbucks had power. I decided to get a coffee and something to eat there. I liked the cheerful people who served me at Starbucks. The food was pricey but very good. I had reason to celebrate. This was my first full day of hiking, and everything was going well. I hiked onto the Sweetwater River Trail. There were plenty of people out on the trail. It's a fact that I always start a trip with gear I don't need. I decided to shed some weight. I was still in the US and could mail it to my daughter. I stopped at the Chula Vista post office and sorted through my things. I gave up 2 bottles of wetsuit shampoo, clothespins, a cord for a clothesline, several stuffed sacks, 8 sand stakes, board shorts, 1 ground tarp, a rash guard shirt, a wetsuit, booties, street shorts, and warm gloves. This added up to 3.86 kilograms, 8.5 pounds. At one point, the route bears right, leaves the street, and becomes a trail. Soon the trail climbs up to Canyon Drive. This was my first steep hill. I made it up with some margin. Soon I was on East Lake Parkway in the fast food district. I decided to get some food at Wendy's. I found it was being renovated and only the drive-thru was open. I walked the pack wheel through the drive-thru and ate my lunch in the shade of the building. Soon I was at the Vaughn's on the East Lake Parkway south of the Baja Divide route. I bought enough food to feed me until Tecate. I also bought a soft toothbrush and a pint of rubbing alcohol. The brush will be my new toothbrush. My old toothbrush and the alcohol would be used to clean the chewing gum off my jacket and sleeping bag. I hiked on sidewalks as it got dark. Soon I was at Mount Hawk Park. A sign showed the park closed at 10 p.m. I decided to park at a picnic table and eat dinner. It was breezy and I was getting cold. My warm clothes were a bit hard to get at. I hiked north on the Centennial Trail. I thought that continuing on Otay Lakes Road or the single-track mountain bike trail might not be a good idea. At the intersection of Otay Lakes Road and Lake Crest Drive, there was a corner wall. I pulled over and inspected the space inside the wall. I found it was a good place to sleep for the night. It put me in the dark and out of sight from the road. I cowboy camped. The tree above me provided a beautiful good-night picture. Things are going very well. I wasn't beside the 805 freeway. I hadn't collected any dog poo or chewing gum. I felt safe. I closed my eyes and fell asleep. Day 3, Sunday, November 11th, 2018. It was cloudy and cold. Otay Lower Reservoir. The map for day 3. Sunrise. The road was better than I expected, with a dirt shoulder to walk on most of the time. A roadside monument. I stopped here to have breakfast on the side of the road. I wanted to see if anything interesting happened at John Nichols Field, a small airport. This curvy road is popular with road cyclists and motorcyclists who like to go very fast. I enjoyed having them zoom by me. I stopped at the Pio Pico store, which is just after the trailhead for the Otay Mountain Truck Trail. I enjoyed some hot coffee and a pint of ice cream. I stopped to have a snack in the shade. Soon, I was a short distance up the truck trail. An ORV rider passed me and gave me my worst dusting ever. Scenery along the route on Otay Mountain. It's a 2,590-foot rise and a 5-mile-long hike to the highest point on the road. I camped off the trail. I wasn't far from Campo Road. I found time to work on my jacket and sleeping bag. I managed to remove all of the gum. The map for day 4, Monday, November 12th, 2018. I camped at 8:45 a.m. The winds were moderate and increasing. Hiking toward Campo Road. When I got to Campo Road, the wind was howling. I crossed over to the right side of the highway to take this picture. The wind was blowing about 40 miles per hour. Suddenly, I heard a very loud male voice ask me, "Are you okay?" It was delivered so loud it was like I had earbuds on at max volume. The man's voice was calm. He was not shouting. As it turned out, a state trooper had stopped behind me to see if I was okay. They have very loud speakers so they could be heard clearly, even if you're inside a car. Once I turned and saw the trooper's car, I understood what was going on. I smiled and gave him a thumbs up. Then I carefully crossed the highway back to the left side. It felt good to know a California state trooper was looking out for my safety. In the valley, I found that the Barrett Corner Cafe was closed, so there would be no breakfast there this time. After the valley, I was climbing to the next pass. At Tecate, California, the wind was very strong. I was very hungry. I bought food at the convenience store and sat on the concrete picnic table outside. The very heavy concrete picnic table was a good idea. Nothing could be left on the table. Well, maybe a brick might not move if laid down flat. I got myself organized and headed for the border station. I managed to fill out the form for a tourist visa, pay for the visa at the bank, and get the visa completed and my passport stamped. Then I managed to walk the pack wheel through the turnstile. I was now in Tecate, Mexico. I needed some time to get ready for my departure. I looked for a hotel room. I found one at the Hotel Tecate. My room was on the second floor of the building and about 15 feet up from the ground. I found that backing the pack while up the stairs was easy. I pulled it up one step at a time. I had the brake applied when I was stepping up. It was much easier than getting a big touring bicycle upstairs. It was nice to rest the pack wheel handlebars on a bed. It made unloading much easier. I had a late afternoon nap in my room. I went to the taqueria Los Amigos for a quick dinner. It closed at 6:45 p.m. I had 2 beef burritos. I had been having some trouble with my right rear lower molar. I got a good workout. It was getting sensitive. I wondered if I should stop and see a dentist before departing Tecate. After dinner, I worked on my route to San Felipe. I had been planning on using a route from the Baja Divide to Rancho Ponderosa to Laguna Hansen to San Felipe. I could not find a suitable route from Laguna Hansen south to Highway 3. I decided to change my plan. I would stay on the Baja Divide to Arindara and then take a route across to Valle de la Trinidad. For now, I just needed to proceed on the Baja Divide to Ojos Negro. I would prepare a trip plan in the morning. I was up past midnight. The map for day 5, Tuesday, November 13th, 2018. My problem tooth felt better. I stayed hopeful that it would get better. I planned to depart Tecate today. I went to McDonald's for breakfast. The wind outside the McDonald's seemed the same or stronger than on day 4. I went back to my hotel room. My hiking clothes were salty. I had time to get my clothes cleaned, do my resupply shopping, and make it to my camp south of Tecate. I found a few more things I didn't need and left them on the table in my hotel room. At the top of the stairs at Hotel Tecate, I found a laundry near the hotel. They would take my clothes and have them ready in 1 hour. I killed some time in the town square. There was a protest over working conditions for municipal workers. I picked up my laundry and made my way toward the Soriana supermarket. The roads of Tecate have curbs. Many of the corners do not have a ramp down to the street. The curbs vary from 6 to 12 inches. Pushing the pack wheel over a curb is difficult. It is easier to turn around and pull the pack wheel over curbs. I would often walk on the side of streets like I was a cyclist. I decided to have lunch at Burger King. It is always a good idea to shop for food on a full stomach. A young woman who spoke perfect English helped me with my order. At Soriana's, I managed to find almost all of the things I like. They had tuna fish in packets. They didn't have 5-minute brown rice. I settled for 5-minute white rice. They had a good supply of almonds and walnuts. I bought a lot. They had peanut butter. I don't think they had any shelled, unsalted peanuts. This is one of my favorite things. I haven't ever found them in Baja. I bought some crackers and cheese. I wanted crackers without added sugar. These were okay, but they had no fiber and no fat. The prices were very low, except for the walnuts. I processed the food in the parking lot. I must say, I don't like listening to the very loud advertisement for something played over and over without a break. I pretended it was poetry and just let it be. Once the pack wheel was packed up, I walked the route south out of town. I had cycled this route in early 2018. I was in good spirits along the way. I stopped at the OXXO store on the route. I thought a hot drink would be nice on this very windy day after sunset. I certainly would not bother trying to heat water at my camp with a wind gusting to 40 or 50 miles per hour. I met a gentleman who spoke perfect English. He insisted on paying for my decaf coffee. I showed him the pack wheel. He was concerned about my safety. That was okay. I felt better knowing someone cared about my safety. I finished up my decaf. I continued toward the place where I had camped back in February. The route goes down a steep section of concrete road and then changes to a dirt path. I followed the route with my headlamp. It took me a while to find the improvised campsite. I used my Map Out app to navigate to the exact place where I camped before. I would cowboy camp. It would be crazy to try to set up a tent in this wild wind. I pegged my ground sheet down. I sat on it and ate the dinner I had bought at Soriana's. Then I did all the chores I needed to do before sleep time. Soon all the chores were done, and I was in my mummy bag staring straight up at the star cluster Pleiades, aka the Seven Sisters. The wind was furious. It pushed and tugged at me. I reduced my sleeping bag aperture to 1.5 inches and closed my eyes. Day 6, Wednesday, November 14th, 2018. The furious wind did its best to roll me all night long. In the early hours of the morning, my bad tooth pain ramped up to a higher level than I had experienced before. I decided I should walk back to the hotel, get a room, and see a dentist. I managed to get packed up before sunrise. I started the hike back to Tecate. I stopped at the same OXXO store for coffee. I sat at the little bar for a few minutes and watched the morning interactions. I felt content with my situation. This would be my third tooth extracted during a hike. My tooth would be extracted today. I'd be ready to go very soon. There would be no more worries about a bad tooth. I had breakfast at the Burger King. The young woman addressed me by my name this time. She was bilingual, young, and a lot smarter than me. I felt sure that she'd do very well in life. I got a room at Hotel Tecate. I found a dentist. She determined my tooth was infected, and she recommended I have it extracted. They fit me in at 1 p.m. It didn't take long, and it wasn't painful. I got a prescription for antibiotics and a painkiller. I planned to depart early on November 17th. I made it my priority to get plenty of rest during the next 2 days.